As advertised, we're back on the Pip and Dodds Marquette video podcast with my friend and colleague John Dodds, publisher of MarquetteHoops.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, a subsidiary of CBS Sports. And we have Mark Miller from Wisconsin Basketball Yearbook. We're talking all things Marquette. And Mark, if you would, with JD, let's talk about the 5 freshmen. We went into break talking about them. They've got to have kids to coach. We know that they can connect, especially Shaka. So your impressions of these people coming into the program?
Right. The class overall is ranked among the top 20 in the country. And that's a good start when you consider we have 355 Division I programs. The one I'm most familiar with, of course, would be David Joplin from Brookfield Central, having watched him play for several years now. And the thing that stands out to me about David the most is his versatility, his ability to play different positions, his ability to score in different ways, just his overall competitiveness, how he really rises to the occasion. When you look at his stats from his high school career at Brook Central, his biggest games were against the biggest opponents. So he really knew that when a good team like Brookfield East or Sussex Hamilton or Marquette or Menominee Falls were coming to their gym, he really put out some huge numbers, and his shooting percentages were really good, not only from 3, but also, of course, his regular field goal percentage and then also from the line. So I see David being a very versatile player, someone that can play the 3 or 4, a guy that can score in different ways to present some mismatch problems for opponents. And then I think he's a really good defender as well. So it's also nice, as you guys know, to have a state guy in the program. And I think going forward, we're going to see more state players. But for this year, David Joplin and walk-on Michael Kennedy will be the guys with the Wisconsin Prep ties. The other guy that I'm really very familiar with is Amarian Ellis from Davenport Assumption. He led his team, I believe, to the semifinals of the second largest division of the state tournament in Iowa last year, and had just a fantastic state tournament for them. He's a kind of a pup in the sense that he's just kind of growing into his body and growing into who he's going to be as a player. He played point guard at 6'5" for his high school team last year. And his athleticism at times can be breathtaking. I mean, he can really soar, and yet he's also really good with the ball. He really passes it well and can handle the ball and shoot it. All those areas he has to refine, of course, but I see him playing probably as the 2 and the 1 at Marquette. And like David, he's a 4-star recruit. The other 4-star recruit in the freshman class is Mr. Basketball for the state of Pennsylvania, Stevie Mitchell. And I had a chance to watch him a couple times in games on stream this past winter. And he's a guy that can play either guard position, probably a little bit more suited to the wing. Really good shooter, excellent size at 6'2" and 165, and he's got a really good feel for the game. So he's not a guy that forces up a lot of shots, but when the shot opportunity is there, he really seizes that chance and can really knock them down from the perimeter. Cam Jones is another guard from the Memphis area. He's a 3-star recruit. A little like Amarian Ellis, he's kind of just coming into his own. He's going to, obviously, with Todd Smith, the strength and conditioning coach at Marquette's going to get bigger and stronger as the years go by. Another guy that can play both guard positions, athletic kid, and a player that I think his best days are ahead of him as he continues to blossom with his skills and refine his body. And then the last guy, unfortunately, I don't know a ton about this guy, Keenan. I'm not even sure how you pronounce his last name. Itejere. So,
Jerry.
You could have fun with that one. Yeah, he came with Shaka. He had been originally a Texas recruit, so he came along with Amarian Ellis and David Joplin. So 3 of the 5 had committed to Shaka at Texas, and the other 2 had committed to Marquette under Wojo, and Shaka was able to convince them to stay with Marquette. So 5 incoming freshmen, a lot of guards, some size, a lot of athleticism, and a good deal of skill. And the thing I'm most excited about with these guys is their potential down the road. I mean, obviously freshmen are freshmen and they have their ups and downs. But I do think that all these guys have big ceilings and guys that will improve throughout their years at Marquette.
The interesting thing about Jerry, when I looked at him, all I've seen is films. I haven't seen any, or videos. I haven't seen any in person. But what it struck me is he reminded me a little bit of Osa Ighodaro, except he was more of a center power forward type, a little bit bigger, a little bit more aggressive toward the hoop. And Osa would be more of the, he could play some small forward, make some passing. Osa is really skilled out in the, out at the perimeter, it seems. And so it looked like they were almost complementary. Now, I've seen Osa play a little bit on tape, and Todd Smith has gotten, whatever he's doing, keep doing it, because Osa looks like a different player this year. Much stronger. He can get much better takeoff off the floor. And the other thing is when you look at David Joplin strikes me as a guy that could be like a Jay Crowder type ultimately, but a bigger version of it. He's skilled. He can shoot from the outside, but if they get him stronger, where guys start bouncing off of him, I think he could really be an interesting player for Marquette. And as Mark said, he plays from the perimeter. He's got that 3-point game. So then that's the ideal thing. It seems like you get the forward who can post up down low, and you can send him out and then draw a big out while he's shooting. And then the last thing, Mark, when I want to get your opinion. When we're looking at Wojo's recruiting class, I thought of it primarily, which was Cam Jones and Stevie Mitchell. It seemed like due to COVID, those guys didn't get any exposure last spring. They didn't go out on any AAU tours, or they didn't go to any camps where everybody was pretty much locked down. And I'm wondering if these guys could possibly, and this is probably true of anyone, be a lot better than advertised, and these ratings are probably the least accurate maybe ever.
Well, as a guy who does rankings in the state on players, it's always there's so many intangibles and things change. And I always tell people, you really don't have, at least I don't, even though I watch a lot of high school basketball in Wisconsin, I don't feel I have a really good grasp on everything in the state from Superior to Beloit until the kids are going into their senior year, because they change so much from freshman to sophomore to junior and even to senior, and their skills change. And some kids that maybe were playing JV ball as sophomores suddenly are a top 20 kid as a senior. So you're right on that, John. I think the last summer was a really strange thing. I mean, there was some AAU ball, but we didn't have the shoot circuit games. So you didn't get the opportunity to watch a guy like Stevie Mitchell against other highly ranked kids. But they did have their high school season, such as it was. And they were able to perform there to further their development. And of course, always there's going to be of 5 guys, there's going to be 1 or 2 that you're thinking, wow, they're better than we thought, or they're better than I anticipated. So I agree with that assessment, and it'll be interesting to see which ones pop out in that respect. I really am high on that Ellis kid. I think he could really be very special for Marquette when it's all said and done.
And with Shaka, it seems like when you look at Baylor, they won the national championship with 3 guards. And you can play 3 guards, and Shaka has played 3 guards in the past at VCU and at rotations. But Cam Jones is 6'4", 6'5". Ellis is 6'5", and Stevie Mitchell is about 6'3". So you got some size, and you don't need a point guard if you have 3 people who can all have some type of point guard skills.
Right, and of course Villanova has had great success too. Playing
that's right.
Guard.
Great point.
Yeah, we had Marcus Howard at Marquette, and of course Andrew Rousey, and those guys were shorter guards, and they were dynamic offensive players, absolutely. But on the other end of the court, you're giving away a little bit when you have 2 5'11", 5'10" guards in your lineup. So when you look at the size, just look at the Marquette roster here, the smallest guy on there is 6'2".
Right.
So yeah, the length and the physical strength and the size, I think are going to be very impressive when people see this Marquette team.
Mark Miller from Wisconsin Basketball Yearbook and the Marquette expert, John Dodds. I could listen to these guys forever, ladies and gentlemen, but we've got 2 segments to cover, so we're going to put the fast break on. We're here at Wisconsin Sports Stream with our marvelous producer, Jason Ruck. It's the Pip and Dodds Marquette video podcast, combining JD, the publisher of MarquetteHoops.com, part of the 247, 24/7, we want to say it that way, JD?
Sure.
Sportsnet, whatever, right? Yeah. A subsidiary of CBS Sports. Tom Pippen's with you. We can't wait to resume in just a jiffy, and we'll get into the transfers to Mr. Smart's program.